Hello, guys. How's it going? Welcome to Talking Ball. I'm joined today by Adrian. What's up, buddy?
I'm fine. I'm fine. Yeah, not much
We've
to
got
talk about though, is there?
no news at all. No news at all. And we've also got Soren with us. What's up, Soren? How are you, bud?
Good, yeah. Just obviously we've been on yesterday and coming on today. I thought there was something to talk about, but like Adrian says, it's transfer windows open. I presume we're talking about the new pies or something that's in the stadium now.
We are. Yep. I'm real mad about the price increase on the pies, and so I wanted to know if you guys felt the same way. But
Definitely.
no, Soren, we were talking yesterday. We just missed this news. Maybe a half hour or an hour after we got done streaming, it
Yeah.
seemed like this news popped up. But yeah, it came out of nowhere. I feel like Daniel Levy's
Mm.
time at Tottenham is up to 25 years, and then it all just ends like that. Um, were you
Yeah.
guys were you guys as shocked by the news as I was? Because I mean, I guess everybody was. There'd obviously been some movement towards some changes in like the structure of how things were handled, but it seemed to me like it kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we were speaking, we finished at what, just after 5 o'clock, 5:15. I went, took the dogs for a walk, made some tea, and sat down and watched a little bit of telly, and then went onto WhatsApp and just over 1,000 messages. It's like, what? What's going on? And saw the news, and I was a bit shocked. I mean, I'm not going to say it hit me anything like Sonny when Sonny left, but I think it's an end of an era. I know a lot of people don't like him and are celebrating the fact he's gone, but I just look at it and think without Daniel Levy, we wouldn't have the Tottenham we have. And some people think that's a bad thing, but I think we have an incredible club. And I think what he has built is, it's second to none. We look at some of the big clubs around the world, and, you talk about Real Madrid. Well, that's just a monster of a club, but think I'd rather own Tottenham Hotspur with all the infrastructure and the chance of where it could go. I mean, don't get me wrong, you'd want Real Madrid's history, but that their stadium isn't the best in the world. Their training grounds aren't the best in the world. The squad is probably better than we've got, but I think Daniel Levy has done an incredible job, and I hope people that wanted him gone can actually look back and think he has built something rather special. Now is the time to kick on the pitch, but everything is there off the pitch to be an incredible club.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. And we're definitely going to delve further into this, but yeah, I've people are excited, and I knew they would be. The Levy out movement, they've been loud. Maybe they've been a slight minority, but they've definitely been the vocal minority, and they've got what they've wanted, and so now we'll just kind of have to see where things go from here. But Adrian, what were your first thoughts when you heard the news, buddy?
He got Martin Joel, didn't he? He got sacked at half time. I mean, it was a bit sudden news. But having said that, his legacy will live on. I think he'd be looked of in a good light in the future. I mean, we had a lot of the protest movement, which I was in solidarity with, but uh, they were saying like, oh, always complain about the football side. The stadium is supposed to be a game changer. They were right that it wasn't a game changer on the football side, but it was a game changer financially on its side. We couldn't have survived on that old ground of 36,000. I had some fantastic times there. Watched us win cups there. But 36,000 when other clubs have got 60,000 modern stadiums, it had to go. And he got in and he built it at the right time, at the right interest rates and all that. People try and do what we do now. They're not going to they're not going to end up with the same class of project. They'll probably have it probably a bit more bare bones. It would be more bare bones, right? So, so you've got the stadium, which is superb. You've got the training ground, which is superb. It's all world class, isn't it? And it's generating so much more money. And we have paid player more wages, but since we've moved in, and we had delved into the transfer window and spend money. We've failed better in the transfer window recently with players that we've brought in, whereas before when we know the disastrous signings we brought in that cost us a fortune. But we did spend money. I mean, we've probably spent $1.5 billion since the stadium's open on players, right? So we spent the money. It's just that the recruitment's been pretty crappy. But for Levy, he put his hand in his wallet. I mean, we've averaged about 120 odd million a year. We spent net spending this window is about 136 mil. So if you're thinking we got 200, we'll still have money to go again in January, which I think we definitely will under Enoch now because they've got to show it. They've shown that they've sacked Levy for a reason, that they're going to do something now.
We'll find out if the transfer window has been primarily Levy or if it's been Enoch kind of influenced. Yeah.
For those out there expecting direct investment now in the days or weeks ahead, all I say is calm yourself because it seems to be the older fans that stay calm because no matter if someone comes in tomorrow or in 2 months, we can't spend any more money to January, which is 4 months away. So we got 4 months, really. If we were getting an investor in who wanted to pump money in this season, we got 4 months to do it. 4 months. So keep calm, keep patient, guys. We'll see if our direction of travel changes under Enoch. And the only time we're going to know that is if they do anything, around the club, football inside, PR-wise, up to January. But more importantly, are you going to put your hands in your pockets in January? That's when we'll know if the direction of travel's changed.
I mean, let's not forget though, Adrian, that we everybody blames Daniel Levy, but he's not the money man. He's just the face of it all. The money man hasn't changed. It's still the Lewis family. Now, things might change with them. They might decide that they're going to pump money in, but where everybody has blamed Levy for being tight and not putting the money down, well, he's worked to a remit of what Joe Lewis has told him or the Lewis family. So, where everybody thinks it's suddenly going to change overnight now because Levy's gone, then it wouldn't surprise me if yes, it will change some way or another, but I don't think it's necessarily going to change the way a lot of people think it is.
They could give the fans sort of quarterly PR exercises whereby they sort of tell us. They don't have to. I mean, you don't tell everyone all your business or what your plans are, but you can start to interrelate with the fan base a lot better because it's been crap before, right? Yeah. So that would be a change. Maybe Vinny Venkatesham would do that. Maybe it'd be left to someone else. So you could do that. There's just other things you could do. There are things you could do around the stadium as well. You could put more seating on the concourses. I see a lot of old people there that you see they're dying to sit down. There's nowhere to sit down. Before they said, it's because of obstruction. Then concourses are wide if you've been up there in Spurs, right? And I had a friend who had a funny turn. I had to get him sitting on the steps. And then I had people come around saying, you can't sit here. I said, listen, mate, he ain't feeling too good, all right? So, and then I had to go and get him a bottle of water at the bar because then got a queue for it and all that. And I thought, well, you've got the odd water station around the stadium. You should have a lot more and not worry about charging people £3 or whatever it's for a bottle of water, So, you could have.
Do you really think that's going to change? I don't think things like that will change. I mean, you might get the concessions back, things like that. But a lot of the little things like that, Adrian, I don't think will change because it's part of an infrastructure that's earning money for the club, and unless unless it's an absolute drastic U-turn on everything. I honestly don't see things like that changing because I don't, as much as obviously Daniel Levy probably had something to do with it, he was not the only one making these decisions. We know that, we know it was a board type voting system. So, if he wanted it and everybody else didn't, it wouldn't have happened. So
that had kind of been my thought too.
I think there's a bit of a myth about voting because there was only about 4 members on the board anyway, maybe one non-executive.
One person still needs more than just his vote.
Levy. Basically, Levy did what he wanted. He had Donna Cullen who was in with him anyway, so now he's got his majority basically there. If she agrees with him, I don't know if Caldicott's still there or not. We know Vinny's there now, and Peter Charrington's going to be a non-executive director. So it means, my understanding of non-executive director is you don't get paid. You don't get paid to do it. Not that he needs the money, though. You know what I mean? But yeah. So
yeah. I was gonna say. I mean, I know that there's like an understanding. I was gonna say myth, but that sounds like I'm putting a negative connotation on it. But there seems to be an understanding that Levy's got a lot of power, or had a lot of power in his position, and was making a lot of these decisions himself. Soren, you kind of alluded to maybe he didn't. Yeah, it's going to come out soon whether or not he did. With whether things changed, and they changed quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all know that he had as much power as he could basically have, but with a lot of decisions that are made, I honestly believe that it would, I mean, like Adrian says, maybe the fact that the people were kind of understanding of what he wanted would vote. But I mean, we all know that when Daniel Levy wanted Poch back, it was the other two that said no. So therefore, Poch didn't come back.
Yeah.
So there are things where Daniel Levy wanted that he didn't get. So the thing is, we all just speculate about what actually did or didn't go on within the club walls, and we don't really know. We like to think we do, but it's when you talk to people around football, and I mean it's listening to Talk Sport and things like that, and you listen to what they're saying. There are a lot of clubs out there that would give their right arm for somebody like Daniel Levy to run their club, because as much as we don't think, a lot of fans don't think he did a great job, the business world of football these days thinks he did a fantastic job. So, it's the fans. If you talk to the fans, they look at it and think it was a disaster because he didn't maybe understand the pitch side of things. But you talk to anybody that wants to make money out of it or whatever, they wouldn't have anybody else in charge other than Daniel Levy. And when you take an £80 million business when they bought it and turn it into a £3.5 billion business without actually putting very much of your own money into it, then that is one hell of a strategic thing that there aren't many people that could have done that.
Yeah,
absolutely. I was going to ask you guys, and I mean, so one of the things that drives fans crazy is, and there was a comment in here. Let me pull this up real quick. First of all, I just wanted to say hey to Joe. Big up Joe in the chat. Joe blogs. Joe says the self-imposed wage cap that Levy imposed on players' wages has basically crippled our chances of being more successful and a more exciting and formidable team. Not only wages, but just transfer fees in general. It seems like we weren't quite ready to, come to terms with how the market is these days. How much of that do you think was Daniel Levy's doing? Or do you think that we're going to start seeing, the club paying higher wages, the club paying, transfer fees towards the top end of the market?
Well, to me, the money, it's not the amount of money you pay in wages or how much the player's valued at. It's about the quality of the player. You can get good bargains for cheap prices. We've done it with you, Doggy. We've done it with Spence. We've done it with loads of them. Great, I mean, like the argument I get though is like whenever prior to Levy going on a protest, whenever someone who was Levy out, harshly Levy out, or vehemently Levy out, they always inflate the prices of the players we brought in considerably. I mean, Gray cost 25 to 30 million. Brentford were going to pay 40 million of him because they wanted to structure the deal. And like Leeds said no. So we got him for 25 to 30. That's with add-ons. It wasn't 40 mil. And like, easiest thing to do when people do that, I'm not here to school people, say, well, go and source it. Go and source it. Bring us the link for the source. Because I know Soren will source things you will and I will because we do it as part of what we do. Right? So sometimes the source will be wrong and I'll hold my hands up and say, sorry, got that wrong. Didn't mean to mislead you. But I'll never go out that way to do it. Yeah, so the money we spent on players is I mean, but the rubbish we brought in, Road and NG, Nkudu, Ndombele, so we should never sign anyone who's got a letter N at the beginning of their
I was
surname.
just going to say that. Yeah.
Naybet, Norton, right? There's 5, right? So we won't talk about Morris Norman though because he was class, right? Yeah. So we spent the money. Now, hopefully, we've changed all the coaching structure. We've changed the recruitment teams, changed around. So hopefully, we don't know what's happened with Paratici. If he comes back, good. If he don't, he can stay as a consultant. Where's the fuss there? I mean, like he can still earn his money. If we ask him, like, what's the chance of use your contacts to get us in with this guy, that guy? Yeah. So no, I mean, like, I just think like we will step up now. We'll step up to the plate now with the change.
Soren, do you think that that's going to be the case? Do you think that we're going to see a change in what the club spends on average in the transfer market for a signing? Do you think we're going to see wages go up? I'm not entirely sure personally.
Well, I mean, again, this is something that to me is a little bit of a myth. I mean, I know, you look at the figures now and it's 42% of revenue. Our revenue is a lot higher than some other people's, which means we can spend more on wages. So therefore, 42% of our revenue could be
Compared
60 or
to
70% of somebody else's. Now, we know that there's always been a salary cap at Tottenham. That they've been what I would call a sensible club. And you look at what people are earning at football, and you see some players now that are earning £400,000-500,000 a week and more, and it's just ridiculous. I don't understand it at all. Look, it's not the players' fault if they're offered it, they take it. Of course they do. But
crazy not to.
when we talk, say Harry Kane was on £200,000, he wasn't. He was on a lot more than £200,000 because then you've got sponsorships, you've got bonuses, and all that sort of thing on top of it. It comes to a lot more. There is a lot of hidden figures within what the players are actually earning. The basic salary might be £200,000, but it's probably nearer 250, 260. So still not as high as some places. But look, and then we say, well, are we going to spend the money? Adrian's already alluded to it. We have spent money. We have spent a lot of money. The problem has been the recruitment. That's not Daniel Levy. Daniel Levy doesn't do the scouting. He will be told what players suit or what players we need to bring in, and then he comes into the thing. Now, where Daniel was saying, about the finances and the sacking, well,
Yeah.
let's just jump over to West London. How many managers have Chelsea sacked, but they've been successful? Nobody talks about that, but if you look at the managers we have had and then we've sacked, well, Nuno, most of the fans wanted him gone, so we sacked him. Ange, most of the fans wanted him gone, he got sacked. Conte should never have been at the club in the first place and just made sure he got sacked in the end. Who was before that? So Nuno, Poch.
That one was the only one I can think of that had fans a little bit,
Yeah, but the thing was, when we led up to the Champions League final, there was a lot of talk that if we won it, Poch was leaving anyway. And the downside to Poch, what Poch need, I mean, Poch was burnt out. Let's not pretend that he wasn't. He was emotionally burnt out. And as much as Tottenham fans didn't want to see him go, and we would have loved for him to have been the one to do the rebuild, and maybe should have been the one to do the rebuild. But the fact was, we was about to build a new stadium, and there was, the money wasn't there to pump into players. I mean, there's the old argument. Well, we didn't sign anybody for 500 and odd days. Well, Poch turned players down within that period, so it wasn't a case of we couldn't. But you look at them, and I mean, I think the one that's probably the most bitter, and Adrian might agree with me, is Martin Jol getting sacked at half time. That just wasn't the right thing to do. But a lot of the managers that are within that figure probably had to go. It wasn't that we were just sacking them for the sake of it.
There's going to be change because, I mean, for those that fear, things might stay the same. No, if they were going to stay the same, they would have kept Levy. The fact that you've got rid of Levy is for a reason. And the reason is they want a change in the way the club is run. So there will be a change. We don't know.
I just wonder why now. So there's always, I'm kind of a cynical guy, and I'm kind of, I tend to brace myself for like the bad instead of preparing for the best. It's good to just be braced just in case. But why did Joe Lewis's family decide that now was the time? They've
We can only
sorry.
speculate, but I would theorise and say that if Levy's going mid-season like this, and the transfer window hasn't been bad, it was shambolic. There was two bits of it with Morgan Gibbs White and Eze were a clusterfuck, really, weren't they? But you could have investors out there ready to invest in the club that have said Levy's got to go. If we invest, Levy's got to go. I mean, that's one thing that could happen. It could be over that Gibbs River report that does an evaluation of Levy this season. So it could be out of the way the transfer window was handled. Maybe that was the last straw. That could be it. It could be a combination of both those things, So, and Rothschilds have been actively looking for investors for a couple of seasons now, but perhaps more. I'm not sure. And so this might be a sign, an omen that we are going to get some investment into the club. We are $1 billion in debt, 670 odd in the stadium. We had about 330 odd thousand in players, transfers and fees and agents' fees and ex-managers and things like that. So I would like that debt to be cleared. Someone to come on the sizable chunk. It'd be nice to clear that debt, but that would then hint at
Adrian.
Sorry?
The thing is with clearing that debt, and I agree with you, but to me, the debt isn't the problem on the stadium, because it was such a great deal done that the debt is. I mean, yeah, we owe £1 billion or whatever it is, but it's not a crippling debt to us. But just to quickly jump back to Daniel, do me a list and tell me exactly who you think out of the managers that were sacked should have actually stayed on and were going to do any good. Because
the one that I can think of too that a lot of people will probably say is Jose Mourinho. With his, having a final and not being able to play it, I think that a lot of people would have probably preferred him to play that match and to, perhaps win us a trophy earlier.
But the way you say that is you wanted him for one more match and that would have been enough. But, we're talking, I can't remember what the final figure is now under Daniel Levy, but if we're only going to pull one manager out or two managers, then that kind of tells you he hasn't been wrong about the ones he has got rid of. So, you can go through the whole list. You go back to one of the managers that came to us and won us a cup, George Graham. The fans didn't want him. He was an Arsenal manager. Nobody wanted him. So he had to go. Then you go on to, AVB. Fans were calling for him to go. So he went. And when fans come out, and I do it, and we say, oh, we've had this many managers in this many years and it's a disgrace. The problem wasn't the sacking of the managers. It was probably the hiring of them in the first place. That was the wrong people to have hired. Now, you can lay that maybe at Levy's feet, but a lot of the managers that have gone have been called for by the fans as well. So he kind of couldn't do anything right or wrong by doing it. You look at what Nuno did with Nottingham Forest last year. Well, maybe if we'd have kept him, he might have done that with us. But nobody wanted him here because they didn't enjoy the football. So as much as we can sit here and call him for sacking managers and saying that we've got a culture of sacking managers, then you can also look at it and say, well, the fans wanted them gone. So, there's two sides to every coin.
Yeah. The finances, You see, it affects it. I mean, we've got good interest rates. The maximum on all the loans we've got is about 2.75%, which is great interest rates. So clearing the debt isn't the issue. The issue we have with PSR, profit sustainables, or still FFP, financial fair play, is that clubs are allowed to lose 35 million over 3 seasons. So it's 105 million. Now, we're fine with that at present. But when you've got, it was the last time I looked, which is a while back, because we've added players to the squad, which have added to this figure, because you amortise the player's fee over 3 to 5 years. If another club might insist a down payment and pay it over 3 years rather than 5, they cut off the rule that Chelsea were doing it for 8 years. It's now 5. That rule was changed. But just as a silly analogy, this is why it works, right? If the club earns 500 mil and you've got 300 million, right, outgoings in football related expenditure, right, that leaves you 200 million. Now, out of that 200 million, you're allowed to spend 80% of that on transfers. So that would be 160. But if you're in Europe, they want to bring it down to 70. So you could find yourself in an awkward situation. You're going into Europe and straight away to comply with their rules, you've got to sell a player. It could happen. So that is the figure. That's the debt we owe on transfer fees, agents, ex-managers, if we still owe money on that. That is the figure. If you can get that down to zero, you can spend virtually, you're going to be able to spend what you want. Well, you can't keep it growing year after year after year. But you should get to a situation, if your recruitment's right, where instead of bringing in 4 players this year, and we know we needed another 3, so say past next summer, well, we only need to bring 1 or 2 in because the squad's good enough. And because you can't keep spending £100 million a year unless you are really earning that sort of money. You can't keep
Well,
doing.
the thing is, Adrian, I mean, we know that we, in theory, on paper, PSR and FFP, we have money to spend. We know that. The problem is, the money wasn't Daniel Levy's, it was Lewis's. It was the Lewis Family Trust that has the money. So where we blame Daniel Levy for not spending, same as Liverpool maybe did this season, it's not him. It's the Lewis Trust.
Levy does own 29.88% of ENIC. He owns it. He's virtually a billionaire in his own right. And they own together, I think ENIC owns about 86% of the club, and the rest is owned by 30,000 shareholders. There's 30,000 minor shareholders.
But the point of that is then, if you look at that, but Daniel Levy only owns them shares because that's kind of what's been paid to him for whatever he's done for it. He hasn't bought them. He doesn't have billions of pounds in a bank. He might do, I don't know, but he's not a billionaire. He's maybe a millionaire, obviously, but he's not a billionaire. He has not got the money to run Tottenham Hotspur. It's the Lewis family that are the billionaires. And where we say, why aren't we spending 200-300 million pounds? Why isn't Levy putting his money in? He doesn't have that sort of money to do. It's the Lewis family. And so where we're all sat here whinging about Daniel Levy, you're actually whinging about the wrong person. It's not him that puts the money in.
Well, the club generates the money to run itself. I mean, 500 whatever million was. It's probably now we're in the Champions League. If we go good runs in the cups, it probably generates 600 million this year. You're making 6 million just on a game, just on a home game.
Adrian, why do we generate that? Because of Daniel Levy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean we sit here and say, well, the club generates this and the club generates that, and this is how much the club has coming in. Why is it?
And you'd make, I mean, he's increased ENIC's wealth exponentially over the years because they bought it for it, and it's worth what it is now. And you get the idea of wanting to gentrify Tottenham, building them flats and all that. Now, if they're by companies that are in the Spurs financial report, then any profit for any construction work, and if we've bought land, comes back into the football club. If it's private, he probably does lots of other private businesses that ENIC do. They've got hundreds of companies, right? So then it's their own wealth and nothing to do with the football club. But when you gentrify the area, the land prices go up, so the value of the stadium goes up as well. And the property in the area goes up. This is what we've seen. I mean, people complain about the gentrifying. Oh, we're all being forced out. Well, a lot of Londoners have been forced out of London over the last 40 years, right? Because of rising house prices and things like that. They've moved out, right? And or they commute in, or they found work for themselves where they've moved to. So the building work will carry on. The hotels and the little scheme at the back, that'll all get done, because like that helps it'll increase the value of the equity that ENIC own in the club. So that, which, if you've got property, if you're in other businesses, you can always go and borrow against it. Where I'd say, like, be careful what you wish for. If we eventually get a new owner, we don't want Glazier's Mark II who milk the club. I mean, it's all right getting excited, and most fans go, yeah, get him in, get him in, get him in. You know what I mean? And suddenly you find out you got you got leader of Syria, like multi-mass murder or something running your football club. No billionaire's going to come in without him not being politically sensitive in one way or another. Because really, you don't earn honest billions; you do it by exploiting people, basically.
Yeah.
So like, anyone coming as pure as we want, but at least if if they are not looking too bad, and there isn't a strong reaction to political sensitivity like you might get more with a Middle Eastern owner rather than an American owner, say. So that's where I think our investment will come. It'll either come from America or the Middle East. I don't know where. I don't know what Rothschilds have been doing all this time. You would have thought there'd be a hint. Well, they're not going to. Bankers are very secretive anyway. Whether it's someone like Amanda Stavely consulting them, whether it's the QSI, the Qatari Sports Investment Group, which that might raise a bit of anger here and there, right?
This is the problem, though, Adrian, that you've got fans out there screaming that we want new owners and we want this and we want that, and we don't care who it is. And then in the next breath, it's like, oh, well, we don't want that one or we don't want that one. Well, you can't whinge about wanting new owners and then whinge about who actually comes and buys it, because you're limited to who can afford to come and buy it.
A good example was when at least some of the protesters I knew voiced their concerns, whereas like some fans, just get them in, was when we were linked with the Texas owner of the Dallas Cowboys.
Man. I was going to bring him up. Yeah.
Then a lot of the Spurs fans went, "Hang about, we don't want him.
We want him. Yeah.
We don't want him."
Right. And I thought, we want change no matter what, as long as it's not X, Y, and Z.
Or Z. Yeah. I mean, Round Table brought a good point up where he says, I
think it's this
obviously, built the blueprint. And the thing is, the club is, in a sense, self-sustainable, but it's only self-sustainable at the level it's already at. It still needs either the Lewis family or somebody else to inject money in that they will then happily spend. Because look, all the money that's been made, I'm pretty sure, and Adrian will probably correct me if I am wrong here, but Daniel Levy never took profits out of the club. He took a good wage and he took a bonus.
Yeah, none of the directors took dividends. It's not like
so therefore all that money went to the Lewis family, basically.
And his wage, there was lots of complaints about his wage, but hang about.
It's not that much compared to what he's done.
Business, if you run a big corporate, I know it's mental money compared to us working class, but if you run a big corporate business, you get more than what Levy earns running a football club, and there's players earning more than what Levy gets. So I get keep having a pop at him, you don't want him, that's fine. But I just thought, well, you're just throwing everything you can at him, and that's not really strengthening your argument, I don't think, because some of your argument was weak. But yeah,
I think the thing is with that, Adrian, that a lot of people go down the line of you don't want somebody, you don't like them, and it doesn't matter what they do from that point on. Your stance just gets stronger and stronger and stronger. I mean, we could have gone on and won the Premiership, and I mean, look at it. We won the Europa Cup, and within a week, people were still moaning about him. So, sometimes there's just no getting over the blinkered hatred. And I'm not saying that every fan is like that, but there are quite a few now. The thing is, everybody now expects it to change. The possibility is it will. But that's not necessarily just because Daniel Levy's gone. That could have already been happening. And let's not forget that anything we do in the future now is off the back of what Daniel Levy has done for the club. That's the thing that, no matter what your stance was on Daniel Levy, you have to look at what he has produced within this club as a business model and say that is the foundation of anything that happens going forward. Now, it's now up to Joe Lewis, keep saying Joe Lewis, the Lewis family and the foundation to actually step up now. They've got rid of Levy. He's the one that's been buffering between him and them. So they now have to step up and change the way that they own the club and allow whoever it is, whether it's Vinay, whether it's Charrington, whoever's going to start making the decisions, they have to now allow them to take the club in that direction, because otherwise nothing changes. The only thing that's changed is the name at the top or just below the top.
Yeah, I don't think they want to borrow money, so they probably use someone around unless they can get an investor in. Because if you borrow money, you've got to pay interest on it. If you buy a player for 60 million and you've got to put a big chunk down and you haven't got the cash flow or the cash flow to build the hotels, then it's going to cost you more because you've got to pay interest on the money you borrow. And that player's not a 60 million man player now; he's now a 65 or 70 million player by the time you paid the money off. A lot of that's not take. I would like to see what I'd like to see actually is an owner of a huge company coming in. Now I'm talking a trillion company. I'm talking either an Elon Musk, who could name it the SpaceX Stadium because it looks like a space station, or someone like Alphabet or Meta are worth a trillion that own Google and all that. Because then, I don't like consortiums because, trying to get 12 investors together to agree on something is impossible. They end up bickering all the time. Humans bicker all the time anyway when they're in good friendships. But so I would like to see someone that huge come in. And the reason, my theory that you could attract someone like that is because they're not in the football club to make money, not in the way that we see it. They would want that stadium as a trophy. It's a shining jewel. It's in London. Then if you're that bigger company, you'll have thousands of other companies. You'll have thousands of other partners. And once you take a stake in Tottenham, some of these other partners will want to sponsor the club as well to bring in even more money. Plus, then, if you're that big, you're a trillionaire, structured organisation, then you can use that stadium to seduce future clients and bring more money, and you can use the stadium to enhance your global brand. We know how lots of companies in the past have invited people here, there, and everywhere to sweeten them, or to the stadium to go and watch your favourite pop star or boxing or whatever. It can be used for all of that, and that would be a more, say, cleansing way of changing ownership rather than sports washing with a dubious billionaire group or something.
The interesting thing would be, Adrian, that if we got an owner who decided to come in and the way they raise money is by selling the stadium, selling the training ground, but renting it back, and we've seen it before in football. And how are the fans going to take that? If you suddenly come in and you sell the stadium from underneath us, but we have the usage rights for the next 50 years or whatever, well, we don't even then own our own stadium. We could do a Chelsea where we go and sell the hotel back to ourselves. And, there are a lot of interesting things that could start to happen now. And us as fans, we sit there and we say how disgusting it is that Chelsea can sell their stadium, sell their hotels back to themselves and the women's team and all this lot. But yet we could end up doing that now. This could be the way that the club go forward and raise money. Well, are we as fans going to be happy with that? Are we going to be happy if we sell the stadium and we only then rent it? We took the piss out of West Ham because they didn't own the stadium. They just rent it. I think City used to do, I don't know if City have bought it now, but that used to be the City of Manchester arena, didn't it? So, there's a lot of things that could start to happen to raise money for this club that people might not be happy about.
I don't want to speak for other people, but I feel like as long as the on-field success is there, right? Like, I'll just turn it back at you guys. Would you guys care? Would you guys care if we didn't own the stadium?
Yeah.
Yes, I would. I would.
Yeah, I mean, the thing
What
is,
about
you
the
could tell that.
Coventry City before they bought their stadium? They were moving about. They became gypsies because
Mm,
the owners of the stadium want to hike the rent. You're always going to get that if you don't own that property. And a
you
rich
look at it
football
another
club like
way.
Spurs should never be in that position. We should never
Yeah,
be in
but
that.
I mean, look at it another way, Adrian. You know, we could sell the stadium and say we sell it to somebody else because they want it to make the revenue for the NFL, blah 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 blah. And we sign a contract that says, right, we've got the rights for the next 50 years. There's always a way out of those contracts. Well, we could be homeless. We could have to go maybe back to Wembley or something. There's every chance. And how will fans feel about that one?
And what's your
Yeah,
guys'
I don't
take?
want that.
Because
That can't let that
this,
happen.
this could come into play. It may have no bearing whatsoever because lots of things can happen before this actually happens. But the Football Governance Bill passed its second reading in the House of Lords. Every political party is in agreement with having this bill passed. Without the devil's in the detail, so I don't know if it's good or bad. After the attempt at the European Super League, I'm tending to go, yeah, let's get this done, right? Because that was a threat to our football. And basically, what the European clubs wanted to do was to nick the creme de la creme from the Premier League so as they could break the stranglehold on the Premier League's control of most of the football finances on this planet, right? And they still would like to do that. That's why they're looking at that's why they've expanded the Champions League, Europa League, and they want to start playing some of their matches abroad in America, Barcelona and all that. But we don't know what powers the football regulator is going to have. We know the Premier League will have to pick up the bill because whatever government's in power saying, well, you've brought this on yourself. Rick Parry and you mob at the Premier League are a bunch of useless wankers, which they are, right? All them court cases they've had. And then they'll say to us, well, you can waste all this money so you can pay for the regulator and her staff while they're in office. And like the Premier League can't afford, they'll squeal. Oh, you always get this with big organisations. They always turn around and say, banking, especially after the big collapse in 2008, you always get it like, oh, yeah, we can regulate ourselves. We can regulate ourselves. You always find out like 20 years later, a big scandal breaks, which happens under their control, don't you? You do. I mean, it's so common. So at the moment, I've got to say, I'll adopt socialist principles to football because it's our national sport. At the moment, I'd say I want a regulator unless someone can explain to me why we don't need one. Sean would probably disagree. He's in finance, so they're probably that sort of angle, But to me, football's going to make money. If it only made half the amount of money it's got now, the owners wouldn't piss off because they're still doing what they're doing. And if they're not making money, they're taking a wage like Levy is, or was. So yeah, that may come into play because we don't know if we're going to get an investor or a phased buyout, which I think is more likely. Unless, say, Google decide they want to call it the Chrome Dome or something.
That's funny. I like that. I'm in support of that. Let me just put
the Chrome Dome. It sounds a bit piss takey though, doesn't it? Yeah.
It does, but I like it.
The Spurs is Chrome Dome. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting, if you walk up to the stadium and it says the Google Arena or something like that. I mean, I love the fact that we have not had to sell the naming rights and we can still officially call it the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium or, I mean, we'd all love to call it White Hart Lane probably, but, the fact that it's still got the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium as the name, I think is fantastic. I don't want to call it the Google Arena or whatever. I think, as fans, we would never call it that.
Max?
Yeah. Well, to fans, it'll always, that's one thing. To fans, it'll always be.
Yeah, but the
Tottenham
thing is that
Hotspur
name will, if
It's
it was the Google Arena or the Chrome Arena or, whatever, it would always have that name above the doors. I want to see the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I want to see it named after the football club.
Well, now that White Hart Lane's gone, it's nice to have at least something that's still tied to the club like that. It's
Well, you bring up an interesting point there because Levy at times they wanted to change White Hart Lane Station to Tottenham Hotspur. You've got Arsenal on the underground, right? But it's far more complicated than that because they wanted too many millions for it. Because you're not just changing the name of the station, you're changing the internal layouts of every carriage, which shows all the stations on the ceilings, like down both sides. So instead of White Hart Lane, it'll be changed to Tottenham Hotspur. Then you've got all your paperwork for your insurances and stuff like that. There's so much all this would all have to be changed. So, but it's been a boom moving on from the station. It's been a boom keeping the stadium called the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, because they found out they didn't rush too much for this naming rights deal. Because now, when you've got the NFL there and all these sports stars and boxers, everyone looks on the map and they know where Tottenham Hotspur is, which will make it more visible to potential investors now, because for a few years we've had all these events at the stadium and everyone knows, oh, here we are today at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, you know, blah,
I'm
blah,
sure that's
blah.
worth money in and of itself, for sure.
Yeah, so it's self-promoted the club's brand abroad and where we are geographically, and I think that's an attractive proposition for prospective investors.
We got Eugene in the house. Oh, real quick, I just need to say hi to everybody. I haven't actually talked to the viewers at all today. We've got tons of people in here, and I'll go back to the top just to make sure I don't miss anybody out. But I'm not sure if Joe Blogs is still here. Big up, Joe. We got Daniel Coys. Big up, Daniel. Jose was here for a second. AJ was here. We got Smudger. Not sure I've ever met Smudger, but how are you, sir? Hope you're having a great day. It's a wild day, wild news. Audio Artisan was in the house. Big up to you, my friend. We've, of course, had Nick Roundtable Talk. Big up to you, my friend. Ben Kaufman. I haven't seen you for a long time, sir. Hope you're doing well. It's a wild day for Spurs fans, that's for sure. Who else have we got in here? Finn Rickwood was in the house. Big up to you, Finn. Rodney's here, of course. Rodney's killing it with some funny comments today. And I think that is everybody. Oh, no, Eugene's in the house. Hey, Eugene. Hope you're well, buddy. One of my big-time Levy out buddies, Eugene himself. But yeah, so I think that is, and then Archer's here. Archer, what's up, man? So yeah, that's everybody. And guys, I cut you all off, and I really shouldn't have done that. But another thing I wanted to ask is, I don't know dick about this guy, Vinay. Do you either of you guys know much about him? I know that he was working at Arsenal, right?
Yeah, he was the big guy at Arsenal, and when he left Arsenal, I mean, Adrian will probably tell you even more than I know, but a lot of people wanted him. He has a good reputation.
Did he leave Arsenal on good terms?
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, he was, it wasn't a disaster of a leaving. I think it was all once it when. I mean, you'll know the story better than me because I don't really watch much about them. But when there was the big power struggle, Adrian.
Was it Edu there then? He's at Forest now, isn't he?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. When.
Well, I look at it this way, right? If you're in a job, you're doing a good job, you're paid a wage. Why are you leaving? So there must have been something. I'm not saying a big bust up and all that.
I think that once there a power struggle within the club,
there would have to be something gone on. He probably thought, okay, fine, you're going in a direction, or I don't agree with this, or you're going in a direction which isn't me. So let's just shake hands and part as friends. And I just think that's what something had to happen.
Yeah,
people do not leave jobs because they're ecstatically happy in their job. It just doesn't.
No.
happen.
I mean, I think, like you say, from what I understood, it wasn't a nasty breakup or anything like that. I think it was all done pretty amicably. And from what I understand, he had a lot of offers to go wherever. And obviously, I think he was out for a good year, 18 months before he agreed to come to us. Gillespie Road, yeah. So, I think it's a good recruitment. It'll be interesting to see how it goes with him. But, I think the unfortunate thing is it's a little bit like when we got rid of Ange. We'll kind of never know if there was change happening at Tottenham anyway, whether Daniel Levy would have been successful, because we're always now just going to assume it's Vinay and Charrington.
Well, and sacking him is partly covering himself for our 17th place finish.
Yeah, but I mean, again, what was there more to it? You know, when you look back now over hindsight, was there more to the sacking of Ange? I mean, it was kind of inevitable. Finishing 17th, he had to go. But then on the other hand, he's just won us a European trophy. But did we have to get rid of Ange rather than taking a chance on a third season with him because of future investment and the changing of the guard within the club? You know, the changing of how it was going. Was it the owners? Was it potential investment? Was it Vinay and Charrington that wanted Franking? Was it Daniel Levy that wanted? We're kind of never going to get the answers. It's a bit like we say, Ange going. We're never going to get the answers as whether he could have kicked on or whether it would have been an even bigger disaster this season.
Well, he was a dead man walking before the final, and then he
Yeah.
wins the final. And I just think the final delayed it a week or two. I just think they did it to sack him immediately after the final wouldn't have gone down well.
Oh man, there
You
would have been
couldn't
a lot of
do it before-
backlash for that.
You
Yeah.
couldn't do it before a victory parade unless you want to raise Tottenham to the ground, like, you know what I mean. So you wouldn't be able to do it then. So I thought he did it as soon as it was possible for him. But I think Levy was under pressure. I mean, Vivian Lewis has never really got on well with him. Charrington was out there in the Bahamas with him looking after their affairs, good friend of Joe Lewis and the family. Charlie Lewis, I'm not sure if he's as firmly involved in, but the one thing we do know, they're generational Spurs. They are generational Spurs fans. So that
I mean, so is Levy. I mean, you know, you can't discredit or take that away from the guy. So I'm glad that we still have Spurs fans, at the helm. That's a good thing, and I hope that never changes. As I'm sure everyone feels the same. That's important. That's really important, and you can't take that away from Levy. He cared. I think that he always thought he was making the best choices.
The thing is with it though, Colin, we say we've had 25 years of Daniel Levy being in charge and it's the same old, same old, same old, same old. Well, we've also had 25 years of ENIC in charge and it's the same old, same old, same old. So, where we say, do we blame ENIC or do we blame Daniel Levy? I mean, it's probably a bit of both, but,
for sure.
If Daniel Levy isn't the owner, then he's employed in a sense by ENIC. And if he's got a remit of what to do and how to do it, then that's how he's, worked. But the question now, like we say, is what happens going forward? That's the important thing now. Daniel Levy has gone, and it's all about what happens now.
Well, for sure.
With that, I mean, you got to look at. I mean, I think the stumbling block has been. We don't really know the true valuation of the club with all its assets, and I think Levy. I mean, he's possibly inflated the value of the club. He might not. Yeah. He might be right.
I'd say it's in your best interest too, right? I mean,
so we're in anything from like 3.75 billion to 5 billion. Well, there's $1.25 billion difference there, right? And if you're buying into the club, you don't want to be ripped off for numerous millions. At the same time, I would expect us to get a fair price for the club. You've always got that earning potential is phenomenal still at the club. I mean, like, if you look at it, we've got an estimated fan base of 34 million. That is a goldmine to tap into, not just on buying up TV packages, shirts and things like that, but, fans are loyal to club sponsors. If they'll buy off the sponsors that sponsor your club. That's why your club sponsor your club, to tap into the fan base. So obviously, I'm not saying the 34 million are rich. Some will be in poor countries and might watch it free somewhere. You know what I mean, and not even have a shirt, right? So, but that is it's a big market still to tap into. Very big market. I mean, the only and also add into that, if you get success, your fan base will grow, so that fan base will increase. So
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think that I'm not sure. I mean, if there was if Spurs were to, I don't know, win the Champions League or something like that, obviously that would grow. The fan base would grow. But I mean, do you think that something like that? Do you think a push for actual success like that would they make their money back? I don't think they would. If we had to invest the money to get us to a point like that, I think that it would be investment that they wouldn't see a return on. Do you think the brand would grow substantially with a major win like that to kind of counteract the money that would go in?
is why I believed if you come and invest, you use the stadium to attract more investment in your other business interests. Because if you or I, if we were, wish we were, if we were billionaires tomorrow, uh, you know, we know if we're going to spend 2 or 3 billion or 5 billion on that stadium, we're not getting our money back in our lifetime.
Right.
It's not happening. So why are you investing in the club? Well, you invest to get a return on your money. You know the equity will go up in value over years. All property prices do. That's not really a fast enough return for me, because like we could be dead before we see it grow exponentially like it did under Levy over his 25 years. So you need to be utilising every aspect of the stadium to grow your own global brand if you're that rich, which I alluded to earlier, saying like inviting people, prospective partners to come to the stadium, watch events, to watch football, blah blah blah, and then get them sign up to dotted line on agreements with you, and then you keep growing your brand and you're growing your global brand. Otherwise, I mean, like, well, unless you could be a philanthropist, you could be an Elon Musk who might probably doesn't like football, but you could go, well, the richest man in the world, or presumably the richest man in the world, go, yeah, I'll buy it for 5 mil just for fun. That could happen. We want the best though, don't we? We want, like, I'd love a trillionaire owner that I know is not going to milk the club in the future and do what the Glazers did at Man United. We want a secure owner. It might be wishful thinking, but that's what I want. I'd love it to be someone like Alphabet, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, and I don't care about their politics, right? But I'd love it to be one of them owners that, like, virtually as rich as a state, but not as corrupt. You know what I mean? Like,
Not as outwardly corrupt, at least. And you would think just one.
That's what I want. Yeah, I'd like an organisation to buy this football club. That's what I would like.
And I mean, so here's my thing too. I mean, there obviously, if we want to see like major growth, we want to see a lot of change on the pitch. You guys have said it too. We're going to need investment. I wonder how much investment, and I wonder, you would think one big push, like a big chunk of money one time. We make player acquisitions with that money. We could probably sustain off of like one cash injection for quite a while. We buy smart, we sell smart. We could make one big cash injection, I think, make a big difference. I don't know if you guys agree with that. I don't know what, like, people pumping their own money into a team usually looks like. I don't know if it's done over the course of, since it doesn't happen at Tottenham, I'm not very, hip to it. I don't really understand how that usually works.
This is where you get to invest to accumulate, isn't it? You look at other teams. They've gradually built their squads up that are better than ours, and now they can sell their players for 60, 70 million quid. We're getting to a stage now where I think I wouldn't value any of our players at under 40 million now in that squad. Gray and all that. I wouldn't. I rate Gray. Others will say, oh, he's only worth 10. Okay, fair enough. I get where you're coming from. But I disagree. But so we are getting to the stage now that when we do sell players in the future, we will get good money for them, unless they run our contracts down.
Well, is though, Adrian,
it helps you with your buying. It helps you with FF.
Yeah, it does. But the problem is, where we say our players are worth X, Y, or Z, Europe hasn't got any money to buy players. So unless you're selling them to the Premiership, then there isn't many teams out there that can actually afford to buy these 40, 50 million pound players. I mean, that's the only reason we've got Muani, because Juventus can't afford to buy him. And, you look at, yes, we've bought players high and sold them for nothing. And sometimes, that's the problem. But
the market will adjust and prices will drop. It's been in a period of deflation since COVID hit them clubs who lost all that money on their revenue streams that they depended, and that's why they're all debt ridden. It goes back to COVID, losing a season.
And now you have to talk about Levy. Levy put us in a good position through COVID.
Exactly.
Honestly.
Yeah. That's where I was about to go. We all said about, when we move into this new stadium, we're going to see all this revenue and all that lot. Let's not forget the first season and a half basically was behind closed doors. And there was no revenue in the sense of it coming into the club. So therefore the club had to be sustainable. And I know we weren't the only ones, but I mean, there's one or two comments saying, if we're going to invest, we don't want Middle East, or we don't want this, or we don't want that. But are you the same people that wanted Levy out? Because if you want Levy out, you can't say we want Levy out, but we only want this, or this to come in. He's either in or he's out. And sometimes, this is where better the devil you know kind of comes in. And
Yep, absolutely. I've been saying that for years.
I don't
Whenever I
think
hear people talk about Levy
City or
out,
Newcastle fans give a damn about their Arab owners. Well, look what
exactly.
City have won. They've won. But I'm old school. My thinking is like, I don't want someone to come in and buy a club just because they want to look good and sports wash, the stuff away. So we'll see. The due diligence will have to be done at the time, won't it? And then we'll all be, like I said, we didn't want the Texas guy.
But Adrian, I mean, people go on about wanting these new owners, and basically Newcastle have got the richest owners in the world, and yet what are they doing with it? They can't actually do anything because of PSR and FFP. Gone are the days when, like Man City, when they first started to buy players, where money didn't matter. Abramovich, he brought success to Chelsea because there was no FFP, there was no fair play and PSR. I mean,
you could
I don't know.
indiscriminately spend at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Abramovich just came in and just chucked money down left, right, and centre. And as Tottenham fans, we would kind of love that for Joe Lewis maybe to come and do that. But gone are the days. I mean, I know we can spend more than some clubs, but gone are the days where you can just literally chuck money left, right, and centre. Now, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? I mean, I personally think if you've got rich owners, you should be able to spend what you want. I think it's hard to say to somebody, right, you've got this amount of money to spend, but we're not going to allow you to spend it.
I'm not a fan of that. I just don't think that it should be like that. Football like that. You don't want to get in a situation which, through what we've actually created, is a little top tier of a top four. It might be top two in Spain and Scotland and places like that. But I mean,
in Scotland, it's not anymore, is it?
Well, you're looking.
Rangers are 10th, aren't they?
Well, I don't know. So you're looking at Liverpool spending money which they haven't spent only because they've won the competition, they've got it to do it. But apart from that, then you're just giving a select few clubs a license to do what they want, and I'm not comfortable with that, to be honest with you. I'm not comfortable with it.
You say that, Adrian. I mean, you look at how Chelsea are doing things. I mean, they buy players and then they manage to sell them for even more than they've bought them for a profit with players that have never played.
There's something going on with Chelsea. I don't feel like everything is above board with them at all.
It's as corrupt as anything. I mean,
basically, I can't point out exactly what's going on, but even something's happening there.
I mean, basically, it's multi-club ownership, and they sell to themselves.
And you have to go back. When Bowley took over, he admitted financial irregularities, right? So they're going to get done on that. Then it's a question of if you've gained at another team's expense, which they did with Villian and Spurs, right? They nicked him at the last moment through, right? And now it comes out that half his wages was paid for a third-party company, blah, 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 or he was given an inducement or whatever it is. And that's only one example. Now, we've all suspected that Abramovich money laundered from Russia anyway, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
You look at a government. Just think of this logically, without knowing what charges Chelsea may face, because they haven't been charged with anything as far as I know yet, right? And I think it's going to be multiple charges, right? When they do get done, I think they'll get done worse than City. Now, and facing
not out yet.
No, that'll be October, November, they reckon. If they if the Premier League don't fudge it. But just consider this, right? Just consider this, everyone listening, right? You're Abramovich, you come to London, right? We know that dodgy oligarchs want to buy up property in London, bring money in. But why money's coming into the country, creating jobs, hundreds of millions of pounds, the government sit on these guys. They don't move on against them, whether you're Labour or Conservative or whatever, unless it becomes expeditious to do it. When the crap hit the fan with the Ukraine war, the government made a move on Abramovich. You can bet your bottom dollar that all of our security services, MI5, MI6, whatever, have got files on loads of dodgy characters, but they just leave them there, and the government's no, it's not really a fashionable time to go after him, her, whatever. So Abramovich is, and then consider this, right? He walks away from a club and just walks away, throws away 2 billion. Who does that? Unless the government have got something. Who does that? Or the government someone said, one, your club won't exist no more, and two, you go because they, and before he even got the club, it shows how dodgy he was. They refused him British citizenship, which says a lot as well, right? So he's been refused British citizenship. He's coming to Chelsea, bought the club, spent hundreds of millions, right, and left without a penny. He probably got millions stashed away elsewhere. I think he's in Turkey now, or whatever. He might have took.
It's worth billions still.
Yeah. So he's gone, right, with nothing. No businessman does that unless the government's got on you and says, look, you're going down. If you stay, you've got X amount of days to leave the country, sort your financial affairs out as best you can. We want you gone. And if you're not gone,
he wasn't told to leave the country.
Like that, you know?
No, he'd already been refused entry to the country. He didn't have to leave, but I would look at it slightly more sinister. I think he got his money. I think because Todd Bowley and the investors that bought the club and paid the debt off, it wouldn't surprise me if he still got money from them for the club. I don't think it's quite as black and white as what everybody thinks it probably was. And I don't necessarily think it was a case of we turned around to him and said, you give the club away. That's probably the public side of things. But you don't just, like you say, you don't just walk away from a club and take nothing.
You can ask the question on the outside, why? I mean, okay, if it's just a question of Abramovich goes and he's the dodgy character and the one involved in all the dodgy dealings, which we know it's obvious, although you've got to prove it, then he would go and the club would be perfectly sound and safe. But why was the government prepared to rip that club to pieces? Because they know a lot of dodgy dealings have gone on. And it means that when you've submitted your accounts, you've committed fraud. They've committed fraud. So apart from the Willian deal, they've committed fraud, because if anything comes up on more of these deals paid by third parties, same as happened to Man City, that goes back to Pellegrini and Mancini. They refused to cooperate with the Premier League over payments to their managers. You had all that sponsorship stuff. They got off of that, the associated partnership transactions. They got off of that through sponsors paying unrealistic amounts of money to clubs for sponsors.
Hang on a minute, Adrian. You say that, and we say, I mean, I know it's slightly different because of nationalities and that, but if that's the case and there's fraud been going on, then why aren't we kicking Man City's owners out and refusing them entry? Because it's exactly the same with them. That there's all sorts going on with them, and we talk about the 115 charges. Yeah, but there's more than that. That's just
probably more. But they're listed in 4 different groups. There's at least 2 of those groups where Kieran Maguire explained to us that if they're guilty of those things, they'll definitely get points deductions. But you're looking at the minimum. The minimum that will happen to those clubs is a massive fine and transfer embargoes. Transfer embargoes make sense because if you bent the rules over transfers, then you should face an embargo anyway. It might be why Man City have been buying players up.
Just absolutely amassing as many as they can, just so that they have a nice pool to choose from. For sure,
you might get a 5-year ban or something.
And that's probably what Chelsea have done. That's why they've put all theirs on big contracts. But the point I'm making is that, you know, we talk about Chelsea being guilty of fraud and things like that, and Abramovich. Well, look at what other clubs are doing. I mean, look at Nottingham Forest. They're doing exactly the same. They're selling to each other, and
Forest is just absolutely just owned by a criminal. That guy, that Marinakis dude, is an absolutely, like, I don't know. I did some reading.
He's a dodgy kebab.
Man, there was a story about it, like a gigantic heroin shipment, like in Europe somewhere, that I don't know, that it was traced back to his money that was funding the entire operation. And then when they were trying to get witnesses and stuff together for the court case, they just all kept dying over a 2-year period. 12 witnesses died. and now he's just they've kind of just dropped it all. It's insane. So yeah, that guy's absolutely engaged in criminal activity. So
The
yeah,
thing is,
there's
though,
all kinds of
Colin,
wild stuff.
there probably isn't an owner within football. I mean, maybe lower tier, obviously, but that isn't corrupt in some way or another.
Yeah,
And
I'm sure Joe
you
Lewis
know,
does all kinds of crazy stuff.
well,
I
we know
mean,
he does, don't we? But the thing is, I don't necessarily blame the owners. I blame the Premiership, the Premiership and the FA and things like that, because they implement these rules and they leave that many loopholes in them, and they can't implement the rules
well,
because
they know what they're doing, Soren. There's money going into their pockets.
yeah, but
You
it's
can pay
not
anybody
though.
to look the other way.
Yeah, but no, there isn't. I mean, you look at the Premiership now; it's costing them millions and millions in
That's true.
legal fees with City, and we're talking something that happened 2, 3, 4 seasons ago, or maybe
Longer.
even more, and we're still waiting. I mean, Adrian says October, November. This could run on into next season after, before anything is actually done. And right, so they get some point deduction. So that, say they get 30 points deducted. Well, it's probably not going to relegate them. Say they get 40 points, 50 points, still probably not going to relegate them. Unless they're relegated. And then what does it do? They've still got the history there. Well, if
Yeah,
they wipe
they'll
all,
just bounce back up.
they'll bounce back up. If they turn around and say, right, we're going to take all your trophies away from you, well, people still recognise the fact that they won it. It doesn't. You're not going to suddenly sit there and say, "Oh yeah, nobody won the Premiership for five out of 7 years or whatever." It's still
Right.
going to be.
They were awarded the trophy. They had
Yeah.
the parade. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't go to look in a history book or look on some website
no,
every time I want to see who won
yeah.
the.
I mean, it might
Already.
be gone on paper, but it won't be gone in memory.
But you
Right.
see, what I like, when soon as Chelsea get done, just for anything, that you can say, you can banter with Chelsea fans. They can't even talk to you about football now because the ones I've spoken to, I said, look, looks like when you get done and you've admitted guilt. So that to me means that every trophy you won under Abramovich is a fake. So don't come to me and say you're European champions under him and all that, because you're not. And Man
But
United fans are going to give it to Man City big time. And they're going to say, well, since Pellegrini and Man City took over your club way back, up until, and you've won 7 league titles and all these trophies, under your ownership, all your trophies are fake. I don't think they won't take them
Adrian,
away from. And the Premier League have
we,
been
we,
an absolute
yeah,
joke
but
for all.
we can say that, Adrian. But it doesn't mean anything, because as much as we could be right by saying that, you tell them fans that they're not allowed to remember the glory days of winning that Premiership, or the glory day when they won the Cup, or the glory day when they won the Champions League. That memory's still with them.
Mm.
Yes, it might die when they die, and record books might not show that they've won, but you're not going to take away the memory. It doesn't matter whether we say it's fake or not. The banter will be there, but they will still have that memory of winning, whether it's done rightly or wrongly. It's too, unless if you're going to bring the rules in, then you've got to do. I mean, it's like now, say Chelsea go and win the Premiership this season,
Mm.
and then next season they get it taken away. Them fans still remember winning it this season. We might banter them because they've had it taken away, but them fans, as far as they're concerned, they were there on the day that they won the Premiership, or they were there at each match, or they were there when they won the Champions League, whichever way you want to say it. They were still there. It's still in their minds. Might not be on paper, but you can't take that memory away from them.
No, you won't. And I wouldn't dispute any trophies they've won under Bowley, but I would dispute every trophy they've won under. And I don't. The Premier League, they just Rick Parry and his cronies. It's just been an absolute joke for all of this. They've lost court cases. They've spent 30, 40 million or whatever of Premier League money going to taking people to court and all that.
So
And
what's the
when you
answer?
consider though, for minor infringements, this is a bit gets for minor infringements, very minor infringements. Everton and Forest got points deductions for
That's a good
minor
point.
stuff, for absolute minor stuff, right? So City, I mean, you can see them going because they're rich, dragging it out through the courts, but that's not good for football. And the stink that will come out around them, and Chelsea as well, will linger the longer it drags on. So, yeah.
Can,
Well,
can
Yeah,
you imagine? Can you imagine though if say in October, November, or next year, January, February, whenever, if all of a sudden it's a not guilty verdict, I mean, what's going to happen then? We all know the guilty, but what happens if a court of law rules not guilty?
What if the
Right.
football regulator has got something to say about this? We don't know what the powers will be.
They might not be allowed to get involved because it's a past thing.
If they're found not guilty, then Rick Parry and everyone at the top of the Premier League should go. They should.
I don't think there'll be a Premier League anymore. It'll absolutely destroy everything.
Oh, it won't, because you
It
still
won't,
have a
because
league.
the
You'd have a league
reputation-
even in a different name. I mean, they're still talking about forming a Premier League 2. That will come.
But the reputation will be gone, because if City come out and they're found not guilty, what every other team is going to do exactly what they've done, and there's no stopping them. Because
I was going to say,
you will not
what is the how do we stop this going forward? But
Well, it's because then you go back to the Premier League. You have to have watertight rules, which you do stress
Can't do
test.
that.
Well, you stress test on every argument against the rule till that rule is bulletproof. You stress test it with maybe different teams of legal advisors. Stress test the rules. Like, will this rule work?
Adrian, you can't do that, because look at Chelsea now. They are finding that many loopholes within it that, I mean, the Premier League must be employing top lawyers, and even they can't make a bloody rule stick.
I don't think the Premier League have approved them selling their hotel to themselves. I don't think that's been passed. But whether they can do it for a loophole or not, but I don't think that has happened. If I'm wrong, I'm sure someone will correct me.
Yeah, but I mean, they've managed to sell the women's team. They sell players to themselves and then loan them back to left, right, and centre. Well, the list goes on and on and on.
You've got that other form of dodgy dealing, whereby if you're a Man City and Chelsea, 3 or 4 clubs like Man City, that they've got ownerships of other clubs. When they brought in a couple of their players, they come from one of the clubs they actually own. So you're obviously going to get a better deal on that player than anyone else is going to get if they want to come in and buy him, right? So a player goes somewhere for 8 mil, goes to his next club, like blah blah blah, he's worth 60 mil, and Man United and Man City buy him for 30 off one of their feeder clubs, basically. So there's that. Sean Butler's gone on about that.
So do we get in on the corruption? Do we get in on the corruption, or do we stay above? I mean, if there's not going to be any repercussions for all of this happening, do we just get in on it ourselves? I mean,
the thing is, though, Colin, you look at it now, and it's not just the corruption in that way, but these Saudi owners and Middle East and whatever, that they own that many different companies that also own different football clubs, that when any rule now goes to voting for the Premiership, they've got the majority. So the Premiership can never bring these rules in, because they will outvote them. And if you're taking, the Premiership are taking Man City and Chelsea to court, who are probably 2 companies that are richer than the Premiership, and the legal ramifications will just go on year after year after. If City are proved guilty, they'll then challenge it. They'll find some way of challenging it, and then it'll go on for another 2 or 3 years. And then, I mean, eventually in 10 years' time, we might have an outcome, and it'll be, oh yeah, City are getting relegated this season. Well, relegated to what?
Unless they take their medicine, because it wouldn't be good for football if it kept dragging on and dragging on. And
They're not going to take the medicine.
But you're right, with the Premier League, there's 20 clubs, right? It takes 2/3, which is 14, because 3 sevens are 21. It takes 14 votes to pass anything with the Premier League clubs. So if you can twist the arm of 7 clubs to vote in your favour, then nothing will change. Nothing will change.
That's what they've already got.
Yeah, they probably have. I mean, I don't know.
But you say that it's not good for the Premiership. City don't give a monkeys about the Premiership, or else they would have already come to some sort of deal or something. The fact that it's still dragging out tells you that they are not giving up. They will never give up. It doesn't. I mean, I'll tell you what. I would love to be earning £1 in every million that they've spent on lawyers' fees so far between the 2, Premiership and Chelsea and City, because
Well,
I tend to think.
part of the charges they're facing are the ones. See, UEFA are different. They've got a statute of limitation on them charges, which ran out with Man City, but the Premier League are doing Man City on those charges as well. They might have been nudged by UEFA to do that as well. So, Premier League has no statute of limitations on charges. It isn't in the rule book. They haven't got any.
To me, I think what needs to happen, and I know I am going to be in the minority on this one, but I mean, when the Super League thing came about, I was quite happy to see that, and all I thought was, do you know what? I'm glad Tottenham have actually got in that, because that's where the money was going to be, and you know, I understood the
I think
argument.
you are the first person I've ever heard say that they wanted that. You might literally be the first person I've ever heard say
Probably
that.
the only person that wanted that.
Not saying that you're wrong necessarily, but I haven't heard anyone come out and actually co-sign that because it's a controversial thing, like you said.
Yeah. I mean, the way I look at it was, had Tottenham not been one of the teams, I would have been dead against it.
Yeah,
But
no,
because
fuck that.
Tottenham
Get
were
that
one
out
of
of
the
here.
teams, I was, my thought was, do you know what? I think that's I think whoever's managed to get us in this is fantastic. I understood the fallout with it all, but I would have rather have been in it than out of it.
Is that a Daniel Levy thing as well? I mean, can
that
we
was
give
a
him
Levy
credit for
thing,
that
wasn't
too?
it? Because every club was going to guarantee before a game was kicked, every club was guaranteed to get 300 million.
Yeah,
Right?
and never get relegated.
But that not only did the Super League nicking the cream of our Premier League to go into Europe, piss the fans off. I mean, different in Germany because the fans own their clubs out there, right? So it couldn't happen. But they were going to take away the jeopardy of relegation. And that would just kill it. No relegation. All right, everyone might go and play attacking football, but where's the, we go to games, we're all excited, we're like big kids when we go as adults. Sport is where adults behave like children when you go to sports, and you're all excited, you don't really know how it's going to go, and some games you win, you shouldn't, and for some teams, the less wealthier teams, the 10, they're always thinking about that relegation in the back of their minds, even if they escape it regularly each year. You know what I mean? But that's part of the thrill of the chase, isn't it? Of being a fan as well. You're on this roller coaster ride. You don't quite know, are we going to survive this year? They've bought and we haven't, or whatever. I mean, it's the roller coaster ride, but that is also the hook because of the excitement and the thrill. I mean, that is the hook. The jeopardy is a hook as well. And it's the same when you get to a final. What Spurs fan weren't shitting himself during that final, wasn't excited? We all were desperate to win. Once we scored the goal, blow the whistle now, ref, end the game now. Let's pick the trophy up and go.
My argument to this one is, do you turn off when you're watching the Champions League? Because that's basically what it would have been. Apart from, I mean, as much as I understand the statement and I understand the arguments behind not wanting the Super League, I think eventually it will happen. But why would you not want to watch Tottenham, Bayern, Tottenham, Real Madrid? The first year or the first 2 years was going to be quite a boring system, but eventually it would have incorporated a lot more teams with a relegation and and promotion. But the thing was, it wasn't the fact that I agreed with what was going to happen. It was the fact that I agreed with the fact that we were in it rather than not being in it. That was the way I looked at it. It wasn't that I wanted it, and it wasn't that I thought
you
it
weren't
was
like seeking it out.
Yeah, I mean,
there's nothing wrong with looking at things self-interestedly, though, is there?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly. And it's one of those that you think there's a group of 20 of you, and 10 of you are going to become millionaires. Well, of course, I want me to be one of those.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I was with you. I was really excited to see our name on that list with all of those other like monster clubs. That's a good feeling too as a fan. And again, I know I keep harping on this, but thank you, Daniel Levy, for getting us there, because I mean, like you said, I do feel like something like that is going to happen at some point. It's kind of a matter of time. So,
The thing is,
make a good argument for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I get what Rodney's saying, and there probably would be fans that out of principle wouldn't watch it. But I bet you there's a lot more that would say they wouldn't watch it that would. Because when you suddenly see on, say, Sky Sports that Tottenham are playing Barcelona or Tottenham are playing Real Madrid, you would turn on. You know, I mean, I'm not saying everybody would, but I certainly would. And I think it would be shit probably watching us come bottom. But the argument then is maybe that would have been the point where investment did come. And
Yeah, you'd watch it. You'd still watch your team play,
yeah,
but watching the other games, don't think it would interest me. I really struggle now. I mean, I watch my games on laptops. I don't have a television in the house for my own personal reasons, but I've got laptops that I'm streaming whatever. I'll get Colin's stream up or whatever, and I've got
I definitely don't illegally put stuff on the internet. I would never do that. So.
Sky code, so
I don't know what
I
you're on
use
about.
that when they're on Sky and that. But I just Premier League football. I don't know about you. A lot of it bores the crap out of me the way I see teams play now. It's when even if your team's playing crap, your own team, you watch them because you're magnetic drawn. You want to see how your players are doing, blah blah blah. Even if the neutrals watching it might think it's a shit game, you're going to watch it. But to be honest, I'd rather watch the under-21s and 18s play without fear in the academy games than I do watch because I've got to be honest, Premier League games, I won't pay for the subscription. It just doesn't look. I love football, but you want to what you expect. I expect to see a reasonable standard of football especially if I'm paying it.
I want to say something too that I've noticed with football is it seems like there's
Very
not
low
nearly
quality.
as much of a wide variety of styles that teams play these days. It seems like everyone has kind of adopted I don't want to say a similar playing style across the board, but I mean, definitely more than what there used to be. You used to see a lot of kind of variation in the way that teams would set up and play. And
Yeah,
now it seems like Pep Guardiola did a really good job at like popularizing his style, I guess you would say. But a lot of teams kind of seem to be copying that. You just don't see some of the wild styles. That's why I kind of enjoyed Ange and what he tried to bring and do because he had a really like concrete and different way of playing the game, and it was fun to watch when it worked. I'm
that's it.
getting really off topic here, but
No, but that's it. You know, I mean, we all say about, oh, we've got our Tottenham back, or you know, there's a Tottenham style, and I kind of wonder that, say we had Conte back here and we played defensive all season and we went like the Arsenal did, you know, winning 1-0, but we won the league. How many people would not want to win the league because the football was boring? Or how many people would like to see it? I mean, there was an argument last year or the year before, whenever it was, that we wanted to see entertaining football and we knew we would lose some games. But then when it came to playing entertaining football or attacking football, but we were losing, it was no longer entertaining or you know, watchable. But I mean, I'm one that you sit there and you see a really terrible game, or you're in the stadium and you're watching a really terrible game, but I will not turn off or walk out. I'll sit there and watch the whole game and feel crap at the end of it because it's been a crap game. But you know, there are others that would turn it off at half time, or go and watch another team. But I don't know. I'm just one of these that until that whistle goes, I'm there.
oh,
And it
and
looks
you
like
look out for things too. You look out for like individual performances of players. You
yeah,
want to see, I mean, even if the entire team is not gelling or having a good match, there's could still be a standout performance from a player or two. It's fun to watch. It's fun to see. So
I
I mean,
love
the
this
standard
comment.
system is like 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3 because you never actually like that all through the game. I get the aerial view. I'm looking like what we're doing across the pitch, who's running off the ball, blah. You won't see that on television. You might see some of it, right? And that's it. But I just find most teams now play with one striker, so they've got two in their squad, whereas back in the days of Defoe,
yeah, you had a
well, they
nice
had
strike
four
partnership there.
strikers. And it's all road
Interesting
back
you say.
football. It's passed to the left wing, pass it back across the centre of field to the right wing, pass it back over again,
Exactly.
and then
Yeah.
people say, scream, put the cross in the ball. You got one striker in the ball. Where's the other striker? And where's the late runner from midfield in the box that make numbers up in the box? A lot of times we're in good positions to put the ball in the box. There's no one there, or there's one striker. And if you get that cross perfect and he scores, it's a real brilliant goal. But how many crosses has he made all season and not found a striker? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
The
no, and
interesting thing I find, though,
I even miss like hoof it up long ball. Get yourself a real nice, tall, strong center forward and hoof it up. I mean, something different would be fun at
You're,
I mean,
times.
you're
the
asked.
interesting thing I find is that, I mean, Adrian, you know, because you go to a lot of matches compared to what I manage, but I always think whenever I've been to a football match, I've got to go home and watch it on TV to see what actually happened and whether we did play bad or good. Because to me, when you're in the stadium, you don't really see half the match. You don't see half the things that are happening. And you're only, it's the atmosphere and the camaraderie and the people around you that take your attention.
You get
I mean,
distracted at times. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I remember going home from, say, Man City or, some of the other games and thinking, well, we won, but was it a good game? I can't remember. And going home and watching the full 90 minutes at home to
And it's
see
how
whether it was a good game.
you want to watch a game. I mean, I was
Yeah.
going to do this, but I soon changed my mind because I can get stats off the phone if I'm watching a stream game, and I can put them up on the podcast and link them up. Not go through every single point in the game, but just cherry pick which ones are. And we always do a brief synopsis and Spurs dials of a game anyway. For those that didn't watch it, some might never have watched it abroad, whatever. And then I thought, sod this, because I was actually going to take a pen and notepad to the game. I thought, hang about, you're not a reporter, Adrian. And if I did that to the nth degree, I wouldn't enjoy the game. Now, reporters are skilled at that, probably of taking notes and watching the game, and I hope they enjoy watching the games. Unless it's just a chore, we'll do it this way anyway. But if I've got to write everything down and all that, I want to go to a game. All right, I want to concentrate on what's happening, but I don't want to concentrate to the nth degree where I don't enjoy the game. I'm paying 70 quid a fucking ticket, right? And
Yeah.
I want to enjoy the game. So, but I can now go and get the stats when I come back. And sometimes I look at the stats, I think, is that the game I just watched? I don't agree with these, right? So
Well,
many
this is it.
variables with stats anyway. I think
Yeah.
I don't agree with that. We were shit. What are you talking about? But it
And
might
this is it, though, Adrian.
yeah.
I mean, you get in the chats or you look on social media or whatever, and those that are leaving, oh, that was a crap game, that was really bad. And you sat there and you watched it at home and you think, well, that was actually a good game. And you'll say, so and so was rubbish. And you think, well, he's been running around and he's done this. And so you
It brings
do
a good
watch
point.
two very different games.
Yeah, everyone kind of watches it through their own lens. They're looking for specific things. Everyone wants to see something from the match. And for a lot of people, Eugene put this in the chat. It's a good time to bring this up. He says, I don't really care about a play style, just win it. So everybody's got a different goal at the end of the day. Eugene, that's a perfectly fine opinion, man. And a lot of people feel like that.
With respect, Eugene, I've got to disagree. I mean, we won games under Conte, which were a painful watch. And when we lost games under Conte playing that way, it was the worst I've ever felt at a football match. Worst I've ever felt, because it was just like it was like the antithesis of football. It was the death of football. You're watching, and then like we'd get a game and we'd get a breakaway from Sonny or Kane when they got all them goals on the Conte, and we'd win the game and everyone would be happy. And I think, yeah, I'm pleased we won, but I'm not. My footballing soul has been pained by this watch.
You know what, Adrian? I think that was the start of the toxic fan base.
Mm.
I
Conte
feel like it
brought
was toxic prior, but
no, not to the levels. I mean, that I started kind of doing some streams around just before Conte was taken on, and you could see the atmosphere on the streams in the chats, and it just kept getting lower and lower and lower and lower. And you then got to the point where the fans were at each other, and I don't know. It was, I mean,
But
as much as it wasn't great under Ange, I would not want to be back in that era of Conte as a football fan, because I think that was the worst part of Tottenham's history.
I remember fans asking me in the Gilpin and all that, oh, we got Romina, everyone getting excited. I said, how do you think they'll do? I said, well, honestly, I don't know how we do, but I said, I know it's how it's going to end. It's going to end badly. And I said the same about Conte, because that's the sort of man. You don't envisage it ending badly with Frank, do you? You don't at this stage. Like you alluded to earlier, Soren, it seems like he's been here for
Yeah.
years, but I mean, like, it does. It just feels that way. But you don't
Yeah.
see it happening. It'll end amicably. It didn't end badly with Poch. He didn't. He wasn't back properly. The team had aged. They'd peaked. They'd run their legs out. You know, doing all this pressing for a few seasons, all caught up and retired out.
Yeah, we didn't replace him. He was
Spirito
heavily
was-
reliant on youthful players. We didn't bring him anymore. So
No. So,
I mean,
but you
we
knew.
say we didn't back him, but I mean, the last transfer window under Poch, we got Ndombele, we brought in Lo Celso,
On
we
loan.
brought in, well, still brought him in,
Yeah.
and you know, so he was backed, and the windows where you know everybody tells us we didn't sign anybody, he was offered players.
But are we
So
for sure that he was offered players? I mean, I know that he
yeah,
said that,
I mean,
and I guess we need to take him at
Poch came out
face
and
value.
said, yeah, no, Poch came out and said that he turned players down.
You had the final. You had the final in May, and he was gone in November.
Yeah.
So even if he got them players in that last transfer window,
Poch was burnt out though. Poch was emotionally drained. You could see it.
Oh, and there were interviews like around the time of the final too, where it was pretty clear that he was checked out. You know,
a new house needs new furniture. Yeah, a new house needs new furniture, and he got rid of in his 5.5 seasons. He got rid of like I think it was 35 players.
Yeah,
you know, you divide that over a season. That's like 11 a fucking season.
Yeah, but I mean, look, we look back at Poch, and I don't think there's many fans that don't sing his name or don't appreciate what he did for us. But the end of the line, he didn't actually win anything for us. You know, he got to a couple of finals. He had the chance, and I'm not in any way saying he wasn't good. I loved the fact. I loved the time under Poch. It was one of the most enjoyable periods of supporting Tottenham. And you know, even if you went 1-0 down or 2-0 down, you never believed you wasn't going to come back and win. You always believed you could get back in. And I loved him. He was a fantastic manager. He was a brilliant man. The press conferences were always good, but you watched the way when we got to the final. I mean, that night against Ajax is a memory I will never forget. You know,
incredible night. Yeah.
It was an incredible night, and you could see it on Poch. You could see the love, and he loved this club, and that's the type of manager that we scream out for. Is that that type of person? But don't know. He himself said if he won the final, he doesn't know whether he would carry on with us. And from that point of him saying that, you kind of looked at him and thought, do you know what? He's not going to be here much longer, whether we win or not. He's not going to be here much longer.
When you consider that our midfield in that final was Winks and Sissoko, you know, and we're much better now than we were back then.
Yeah, but the biggest mistake he made on that night was playing Harry Kane.
Yeah, he should have. Mora deserved his chance for that.
Yeah.
At least a start. Bring Kane off the bench. I mean, it's
and that's the way I agree with that. But look, you know, you go back to Thomas Frank now, and yeah, it just feels like he's been here forever. And
you get some similar vibes off the guy.
You
know,
do.
At least I do.
You do.
And
I agree with you. I mean, but the problem is.
He's Poch Mark 2. He's Poch Mark 2.
Yeah, I think he could be. And you look at him, and those first 2 games in the league under him, you kind of felt something was about to happen. And then you come back down with a bump. But that bump was we lost 1-0. It was an own goal. And yes, we didn't look as though we were ever going to do anything in the match, but we only lost 1-0. It wasn't the disaster that it could have been, because it could have been easily 4 or 5-0. But I think at one point I looked and they'd had 19 shots and we'd had 4. And, you know, if that had been the other way around under Ange, we'd have all been berating him. The fact, you know, but you look at Frank and you just think the team will get better and better. But the only way we're going to really know is by the end of the season or next season. You know, what we see at the moment is promising. and it's brilliant. But until we actually either win something or get top four again, then we've done nothing again. And where Adrian says, "Oh well, you know, you don't see Frank going anywhere," and blah blah blah. Who knows? You know,
Yeah.
if new investors come in, is Thomas Frank a big enough name and personality for a new investor? We don't know. You know, you could get a billionaire come in and he could turn around and say, "No, I want Conte back, or I want Mourinho." Well, obviously not Mourinho, maybe, but Conte or somebody else. I mean, you look at the fans. Go back to prior Ange. A lot of fans wanted Amarin. The Man United fans hate him at the moment. He's the
Right.
worst manager they've ever had.
A
But
lot,
yeah,
a lot of fans wanted Glasner as well.
yeah,
I think with the market for managers right now, I don't really know who is attainable. That would be a bigger name. I don't know. I think we're lucky to have Thomas Frank, and I think that we'll probably stick with him. I mean, logic would tell you that we would stick with him for a couple of seasons, but
Yeah.
again, like you said, there's no guarantees. It would be, I don't want to say funny, but to everyone that's saying, Daniel Levy, manager merry-go-round, yada yada. I mean, if we did get rid of Frank quite quickly, it would be, again, I don't want to say funny because that's not, I don't want that to happen.
I know
But
what you mean. But yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Is it really Daniel Levy that's the guy that's making all of these bad decisions that we don't like? I mean, it's entirely possible that they're coming from higher than him, and we're coming from higher than him, and will continue because our ownership hasn't changed.
I can see Amarin going from Man United. He's tried the five at the back. I can see him going. So you look at Glasner or Iraola going there, but you can't be certain that Arteta keeps his job if he doesn't win something this year at Arsenal. So one of those managers could go to Arsenal as well. I could see them two going to bigger clubs, but we'll see.
Again, do we not think like Man United are very similar to Tottenham, that it's fundamentally something wrong? It's not just the managers. I mean, they had Jose. Ten Hag won them the FA Cup. Did he win it twice or whatever? They've had some decent managers in there. I mean, let's not forget they had Van Gaal. All Tottenham fans were screaming for Van Gaal.
Yeah, that's when we got Poch, right? Correct me if I'm
Yeah.
wrong.
No. Did we get Poch then? Yeah, we did. Yeah. I mean, since Fergie left Man United, that is not the same club. And, we can look at Tottenham and say, well, when we lost Poch, it's not the same club. But you've got to look at it and think, well, there must be something different within the club, because they got rid of, who was their main guy that did all the hiring and firing?
I have to defer to Adrian on that one. I'm not 100% sure.
David, what's his name? Was it David?
Hold on, I'm gonna ask the internet.
Yeah, ask the internet.
Yeah.
He was there a long time.
Anyway, when he was there, and everything was rosy, and then he went, and everything's gone downhill. Well, what's to say that might happen with us?
Was it Edwards at Man United?
Edwards, that's the one. Yeah, Edwards. Yeah. And you look at things and you just think, I mean, Man United is a shambles of a club at the moment. And
you see, then you look around, right? You look at a club like Bayern with a proud tradition. What do they do at Boulder and everywhere? They've got people in those positions.
If you come in fan-owned clubs as well.
If you come as a multi-billionaire and you think, I don't know nothing about football, just throw money at it and it'll work. It won't. The previous owner of Everton spent 500 million quid and got absolutely nowhere, right? So you've got at Man United, we just go and buy out the best players. But hang about, are they the right profile for your squad? Does he fill a particular slot? Well,
are they absolute dickheads?
Or whatever. And we've actually had that churn around us now. I mean, when we bought Ndombele and Lo Celso, we bought them blind, really. We bought them blind. So, and now we seem to we're profiling a style of play, right? Which is, look, to me, I've always said that your football club, right, your football should be played from your lowest level of academy through your first team exactly the same way, right?
Which is what Poch brought in.
Right. When players progress, then they know exactly what's expected of them. to a higher level, obviously, but they know what's expected of them. And then if you're famous for playing an attacking brand of football, whatever, and you're going out looking for a manager, and you know that Conte plays more of a 5 at the back, so it's more an 8-3, it wasn't a 4-3-3, it's more as a 7-4 attacking wise, then you don't bring those managers in because they don't fit your DNA. And that's what we've done. Conte, managers of their name here: Nicholson, Birkinshaw, Joel, Redknapp, Poch, hopefully Frank. You know, I probably missed out a couple. Even Odell and Ardiles were, because they were club people. They might have had success, but they were the right DNA for this football club.
I'll go out on a limb. I'll even say AVB, even though it didn't work out with him. I think that he had the right ideas.
Yeah,
I liked the way that he thought about the game. So yeah, I get what you're saying. I mean, I jumped in whenever I jumped in as a Spurs fan. It was Harry Redknapp time, and you know, it was a lot of fun back then. For me, football should be fun. It should be fun to watch. You know, you don't want this robotic, stagnant football. And I think that under Frank, we're getting that. I just hope that we're able to continue this ride, and I hope that nothing changes drastically with regard to Frank with the ownership. And kind of just to tie everything back in, Adrian, I mean, if we were to get drastic changes at ownership level, yeah, like you said, we just have to make sure that we bring football people kind of into the fray, and that we don't get somebody who wants to make decisions that has no business making decisions. Really.
Well, the obvious safeguard is ENIC, that if you get an investor, and even if ENIC are still the majority holder, even if they only hold 51%, they're not going to let a new investor, you know, corrupt this club or wreck this club or whatever. That's not going to happen while they've got a stake in it. So I'm not too worried on that front. I think we'll get an investor, even if it's a phased buyout. Right, if you go back to Sugar, he hung on to his shares. He knew his value of his shares were going to go up under this new ownership, so he stayed, didn't he? And then eventually he sold out. I mean, like, will Levy eventually sell his shares? Who knows? I mean, he owns 29.88% of it.
30%, yeah.
So he'll probably, ENIC and that will hang on to their shares. They're not going to let anyone come in, even if it's a phased buyout, you know, destroy their equity in this club by bankrupting it. So with debt, loading it with debt or milking it. So that won't happen. So
yeah, you're right. There are, I guess you call it safeguards in place with regard to ENIC. I don't know anything about Peter Charrington, not a bit. I have heard like Johnny from Football Inc. and Sean, you know, I've heard him talk about Charrington before.
I think he was chair of Citibank once a time. I know he was quite friendly with Joe Lewis out in the Bahamas as well. Linked out in the Bahamas as well. I haven't really
money man into.
Yeah.
With this position, so I'm not sure he's what's the name of non-executive chairman? What does non-executive exactly mean?
Well, basically, he doesn't have a rule in saying things.
Oh, so he's.
I think he has saying things. Non-executive means, as my understanding is, you Google it, you don't get paid. I think you do it for free.
Yeah, but I thought I was under the impression that he's there not to necessarily have anything to do with the day-to-day running of it. That will be Vinay. And
they sit on the board / hold a title, but they're not involved in the day-to-day running of the club.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, I guess just kind of put a cap on things. Do you see things changing drastically with regard, you know, since Daniel Levy's gone? Do either of you think that we're going to see some like massive changes in the immediate future?
The club may be more transparent. They might tweak a few things. They might tweak the relationship with the supporters' trust and the fan base. Look, to show us their intent, they've got 4 months to the January transfer window. That is where we're really going to judge them, unless they can surprise us with, you know, some subtle changes.
I just don't understand why they had the opportunity to get this done prior to the transfer window and really make some changes then. You know, why keep Levy around for that transfer window? I don't really understand the.
Probably if it went wrong, then Levy would get the blame rather than.
Yeah.
I mean,
yes, that's kind of dark.
My argument would be if they knew they were getting rid of Levy, or I don't believe it's happened as quick as what people think it has. This to me has been on the cards since the point of Vinay and Charrington coming in. So it's
Yeah,
a
for
good
sure.
6 months.
Yeah.
And my argument would be that if Levy knew he was going and the date was set and it was a 6 month period or whatever, you can't tell me Levy was doing the transfers this window. Well, if Levy wasn't doing the transfers this window, yes, we've got 4 big players in, but what about the cock-ups then? If people are blaming Levy for the cock-ups, well, what's to say he was doing them and not Vinay and, well, I presume not Charrington, but say Vinay. Well, why has Vinay got a clear run at things? Because he got 2 big things wrong, but we'll blame Levy instead. Now, my argument to will things change at the club? I don't think anything is going to be any different to what it would have been had Levy been staying, because I think the changes were already being implemented, whether Levy stayed or not. So the fact that I think we were going to spend more money, I think the way we did the business, the way we pay the players, the way we buy the players, the way we sell the players, this was all probably something that was changing anyway. The only difference is now we'll never know if Levy would have gone with that or not, because we're all just going to assume it's because there is somebody new in charge. Whereas, like I say, I think it was already going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, the first sign for me about Levy losing a bit of grip was when Donna Cullen wanted to retire, and he asked her to stay for another year,
Yeah.
and she supported him all the time. So that was a sign to me, like, she's
I
going.
didn't realise she'd been there for 30 years nearly, hasn't she? She's been there longer
Oh,
than.
she predated Daniel. I didn't know that
Yeah,
either. Interesting.
yeah, she
Oh,
predated Enoch.
yeah. So that was that. And when we all knew, once Charrington came in at the beginning of the season, we knew changes in the air, didn't we?
And I mean, there's been talk of a new ownership and investment and stuff, and that really ramped up. The investment portion really ramped up, I feel like, before the transfer window. You know, we had heard all kinds of talk about that. So there was change in the air, you know, but
I think Levy was always going. I think if he was involved with the clusterfuck of Morgan Gibbs White and Eze, and it was really down to him, and we know there's a team always involved in recruitment. Managers doesn't pick the players. That's just a myth. It's a myth. It's a team thing. So I think that was made the decision now, because like
Well,
you
you said that, Adrian.
you could have left it to Christmas prior and see how it went with the club prior to with the new players coming in, and then like you've got January window coming up. This trigger seems to be pulled. He's been Martin Joel, and he's been sacked at half time. It comes across to me. I could be totally wrong though, but that's the way it just, all arrows seem to point to that the River Gibbs organisation did a review of Levy. They were supposed to have done a review of Levy throughout this season, right? And maybe the Europa League, maybe then he's got through to the Europa League. We finished 7th. It's under his jurisdiction. He's been here X amount of years. He's only won 2 trophies. We've had 16, 17 managers and all that. Well, you can't keep sacking people without people looking at you. Not
Adrian,
that.
no, Adrian. You come up with them figures, but what about the fact that we've been to 7 finals? So we could have had 7 cups in that year, and if we'd have won all the finals, we wouldn't be sat here talking about not winning things. So the fact that we have had opportunities and we've fluffed them ourselves you can't just lay all the blame at Daniel Levy for
it's
things
easy.
that have gone wrong. Because look,
Yeah.
you sat there, you sat there and said he may have fucked up the Morgan Gibbs White and the Eze. Well, what about the fact that he may have done well with the Simmons and the Kudos and the Paulinho? You know, when we say he's done wrong with some, we've also got to say he's done well with the others. So he's got 3 players in, which are first team players, and we lost 2. So in theory, he's done better than he's done bad. Now, if we then say Yeah, but if we then say, well, hang on, it wasn't Daniel Levy, it was Vinay. Well, why aren't we saying Vinay did bad on the Eze and the thingy and he did well on that? People are quick to say that Lange has done nothing.
Yeah.
Well, what's to say Lange didn't then get those players over the line as well? There's
Good points.
no.
Good points, but there's a difference in the past when I've watched us win trophies. And the main difference to them semi-finals that we lost is that, and it was different with the Man United one because we'd already beaten them 4 times this season, right? And we beat City side as well, was we didn't go into that final against Chelsea, which we won with that Woodgate header with belief because we knew how much better than they were. We didn't go into any of them semi-finals with belief because we knew the team wasn't good enough. We went into those finals with hope because we thought, we might get lucky. They might get a player sent off. Something strange might happen. The referee might give us a dodgy decision or something like that. But we didn't, because we didn't have the belief. In the past, when we built a team, we had belief. You knew in the 80s. I knew we were going to win trophies.
Yeah, Adrian, you say that. That when we got to the Champions League final against Liverpool, the belief was there that we could go and do something. The only reason that we suddenly didn't believe is because the ref gave a dodgy handball away. I mean,
and they changed the rule after that.
They changed the rule after it because it was such a pathetic. I mean, had we not conceded that penalty that early on in the game, who knows what would have happened?
It wasn't a great game, but we were the better team. And that, I mean, it would have been more ironic if Origi didn't get the 8-minute goal when we're trying to get a winner anyway. So, yeah.
Yeah, I've done my best to block that night from memory. That was a really bad day. I think I probably talked about it on stream before, but man, I was like, I was so drunk during that final, and I'm pretty sure I cried. I mean, I'll just be honest, I definitely cried after we lost. But anyway, back to. So I've only got a couple more minutes before I got to head to work. Unfortunately, we've been going for like 2 hours. This is always a fun time with you guys. I appreciate it. Yeah, this has been good.
It's been good we've covered everything. We've solved the world's problems. You know what I mean?
We really have. Yeah. If only they'd put us in some kind of maybe they could put us in charge of Tottenham. That would be good. But David Clark says that his sacking was triggered after employing one of the most experienced men regarding naming rights for the stadium, but Levy blocked his every move. Lewis then decided to put in Charrington. That's an interesting one, David. I hadn't heard that, but I absolutely believe you. So I guess that kind of, that points in the name of we're going to get naming rights for the stadium soon. So we were talking about that earlier. I guess that's kind of a bummer.
But what's to say that all the deals that were put in place were the right deals for Tottenham? Yeah. Yes, I agree with part of that we did employ one of the best people to go get that sort of deal done. And obviously it never got done. But what's to say that the deals were good enough? And where David says that there were a lot of other, it wasn't just to do with the naming rights. Let's be honest, that is not the main issue. And it's probably one of the nails around the coffin, but it's not the nail.
Yeah. There was obviously a lot going on, but again, like you were saying, Soren, I think that we have to, I don't know, we're people, right? And as humans and people, you want to be able to put blame on like a tangible thing and a person because that's easy. And, our brains, I think, programmed to do the easy thing. So when there's a person to blame, especially a person that's made mistakes in the past, or perceived mistakes, Daniel Levy in this case, it's easy to continue to blame them, but it will be interesting going forward because that guy isn't there to blame anymore. And so if these problems keep occurring and things don't change, we'll have to look for a new person to blame. And I'm waiting to get really excited like other people are doing because I don't know if I believe that things are going to change. And I don't think things were as bad to begin with as a lot of those people do. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Usually I try to like kind of round off a stream with like some kind of a, I don't want to say answer, but but it's hard. There isn't a clear answer here.
Yeah. The only way you're going to know if it was Levy or not, or things have changed that would have changed if Levy had stayed, is the money. If there is suddenly a lot of money available, then it had nothing to do with Daniel Levy. It was all to do with the Lewis side of it. If there's no money, but we do make signings but with the same sort of money and better signings, then yeah, you can blame Levy. But if there's all of a sudden a lot of money comes in, that is nothing to do with Daniel Levy.
Well, my positive spin on the end of the show is that there will be change because you wouldn't have got Levy out otherwise. He was got rid of because they wanted the club to be run differently. a move in a different direction. We have yet to see what it was. We've yet to see if there will be this rumoured investment. Maybe not as much because we have spent on players, but to see whether I'll be judging it after the January transfer window because they've really got grace now. They've got rid of Levy, so you've got 4 months. You got
notoriously hard to bring in good players in January. But so I guess I'm probably going to give it till the summer, if I'm being totally honest, because I think that's when we're likely to see like big wholesale.
Yeah,
change.
but a hint of
Just to chuck in, just to chuck in a left field thing. Can you imagine if he was sacked because he'd spent too much money in the transfer window?
Holy shit! Don't even get
Can
me
you
started.
imagine that? No, we've got rid of him because he spent too much money this year.
Jesus Christ! Yeah, that would be wild. That would be something. I don't even want to know what happened. There would be more. There would be more protests. I'm just not sure who they would. I guess Enoch out protest then. Yeah, but okay, guys, I really appreciate you guys. I appreciate everyone that's been in the chat. Some of you guys have been here for 2 hours. It's crazy. And of course, Soren, Adrian, thank you guys so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
For the show tonight. Spurs diehards go out in just under 4 3/4 hours. It's 5:15 now. We're in the UK.
Everyone, head over to Spurs Diehards. In fact, let me get the link
will be hosting. I'll just be sitting helping him out. So,
heck yeah, Adrian, you're a pro at this stuff, man. You're always doing this. Spurs Diehards. Well, shoot, I don't have the link handy, but I'll grab it. It only took me a second. Here we go.
We are 11 short of 1,500. Not bad for a year. Just over a year, 14 months or something. So people like us, but it's not about numbers though. As so much. I mean, it's nice to have them. It's more about like the.
There we go.
It's more about and the loyal support.
I love what you guys do over there, man. It's a great channel, and everybody that's tuned in here, I really appreciate you guys. I never have been like a very consistent content channel, with shows on a consistent basis, but I'm trying to get better at that. And I really appreciate it. And again, Soren, Adrian, appreciate your time, guys. Head on over to Spurs Diehards if you haven't already. Here's the link. Make sure you tune in. You got a show in less than 5 hours, guys. And also hit the like on this channel and hit the notification bell. I appreciate you guys. All right, but with that, I will end the stream. Levy is gone. Ding dong, the witch is dead. We'll see if the change we want comes to be. Bye, guys.